Today, we're going to talk about going from DSLRs to mirrorless systems. Through the years, I've owned quite a few DSLRs and I've owned quite a few mirrorless systems. But recently, the mirrorless systems such as the Canon EOS R has come into play, and the evolution from those older mirrorless systems to the newer ones is quite dramatic. So we're going to take a look at that today, and let's get into it. One thing that I would say is the current state of mirrorless cameras is like worlds difference. So with the Canon EOS RP, which I'm filming on right now, the 1080p is full frame. The camera is on par with, I believe, a 6D, and so stills photos with them and video with this camera is something different to get used to. The autofocus in these systems is spectacular. The dual pixel AF that the Canon EOS R system provides, and it's also on the M50, is fast, it's reliable, and it's sort of a game changer. I've been dealing with cinema cameras for the last few, where I've been living in a mainly manual focus mode, manual aperture and so forth. So I figured, why not give the mirrorless cameras a shot in doing some of the camera work and the heavy lifting for my YouTube videos. Here we're using the Canon EOS RP. It's pretty reliable and great for 1080p. It has the full frame shots. Like this shot right here, I'm filming on a 50mm. So a lot of times people would choose a wider lens for doing YouTube videos, but since I'm not vlogging and I'm not, a short distance away from the camera itself, I have the ability to film like this. Some of the things that I had to get used to with the mirrorless systems is, one, the viewfinder. It's not an optical viewfinder, so you're not seeing a reflection of the scene, but actually you have a full monitor in the eyepiece, and it's mind-blowing for that one perspective. The other mirrorless cameras that I have are mostly just rear screen cameras, so like the M5 and some of the other ones that I've been using. They're, being able to put it up to your eye and see the viewfinder in all of its clarity and brightness and richness is excellent. One thing I have noticed is that sometimes the viewfinder image is considerably brighter and probably a little bit better than what the actual image would show up. So really being able to see what you're photographing and then take the photograph, it's not going to be one-to-one from what you see in that viewfinder. That viewfinder is quite strong and bright and clear, and so it's pretty amazing. The other thing with the mirrorless cameras that I'm seeing is the Bokeh is a little bit different. The fall off from when you're shooting at a 1.8 or just a little bit stop down a little bit. The bokeh is very creamy. It just sort of flows. It's not as oval or circular and discrete as some of the DSLRs. I don't know if this is just my perception of it. I'd love to have some feedback in the comments, but it seems just wildly different. So I've done some photos, and I'm showing them here, where the fall off from the focus subject to the background is either quite drastic. The background is blown out and sort of smoothed out quite a bit. And with my Canon 5Ds and some of my Nikon DSLRs, it's sort of a different fall off. Obviously the 5Ds are going to be full frame cameras also. My Nikons are APS-C cropped sensors, but you know, the glass on them are all going to be fast and so forth. The photos I took here are going to be with that 50mm, you know, nifty 50 1.8, and it's considerably sharp, but the fall off is dramatic, and so I wanted to try it as wide open as possible, and then I stopped it down a little bit and sort of took some shots where, you know, the fall off from the focal front to the background is not as dramatic. And you know, when you open it up to f22, it's very sharp across the whole image. It's nice, but you know, shooting at the wider apertures like f1.8 or, you know, 2.8, 2.4, all the way up to 4, yeah, that you know, focal area to the backdrop is dramatic. So I mean, something to get used to. Going from the camera doing stills into editing, I was shooting RAW. Canon RAW is a pleasure to work with in Lightroom, and with the Camera RAW application from Adobe. The lens that I have, the nifty 50 1.8, is not quite, it doesn't have a lens profile, so some of the aberrations, I selected the 1.4 50L RFL, and that did some things, but I actually liked the distortion that I was getting out of the lens, and when it corrected it, it sort of took away, it sort of flattened it out. It took away a little bit the character of the photos. So it'll be interesting to see if and when they release a lens profile for, you know, the Adobe editing suites, what that would look like. The other thing to sort of note is the camera itself is just a pleasure to work with. It feels good. I know they have a base plate that you can put on to make it, you know, stand as tall as a standard you know, stills camera, so that your lenses aren't, you know, tipping over the camera itself, because the body is relatively small and light. So the handle on it is a pleasure to work with, and you know, overall it's light, it's super light. When I picked up the package, you know, before, I actually had to check the packaging to make sure that the camera was in the box, because it was just so light. Just it felt like a feather. So I want to make sure that the camera was actually in the box. But so that's something to get used to, because my 5Ds are all fairly hefty and heavy. When you throw a lens on it, again, you know, I typically use some of my L glass with that, and it's very heavy. So far I haven't got my hands on an RF to EF adapter, but hopefully that will show up soon, because I want to start using, you know, my regular glass with it. With all my other cameras, I have you know, EF-M to EF adapters and so forth, but this one is definitely, you know, I'm going to have to hopefully get that soon and try out the rest of my glass to see if it's as fast focusing and getting it, you know, some of the advantages of the R system in with my EF glass. You know, my next step with this is to just take more photos with it. I'm going to be doing some camera, you know, videos with it, since it's easier to have the autofocus here, and I don't really have to worry about setting up a camera and having a wireless follow focus to adjust my focus. It's got me in focus now, and I can move around, and it will quickly adjust to that. So that's nice. It does concern me that I have to shoot at a lower resolution, so I'm shooting at 1080p instead of the usual 4K I've been filming at, but we'll give this a shot and see how it goes. So go ahead and hit that like button and leave us a comment below. Let us know if you're using a mirrorless system yet, if you're going with the Sony, the Nikon, or the Canon systems and tell us what you love about it. And you know, feel free to, you know, link to your sites and, you know, show us some of the work that you've done. All right, well, I hope everybody's having a great week, and we'll see you in the next one.